So hello again. It is the 7th and final day of Jane Austen week, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my favourite ever Jane Austen novel and one of my favourite books of all time. It should come as no surprise to you all, considering I've mentioned that this is my favourite one before and I've now talked about all of the rest of them this week. Also, it should come to no surprise to all of you because this is widely considered the most popular Jane Austen novel, and I hate to follow the trend. I want to be contrary, but I can't because it is brilliant. My favourite Jane Austen novel is, of course, Pride and Prejudice. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. It's just so good, and it makes me so happy, and every time I read Pride and Prejudice, and believe me, I have read it a lot of times, I'm just filled with such a warm glow of happiness because it is beautiful and wonderful and lovely and brilliant, and I just love it so much. There are a few books that make me smile more than Pride and Prejudice. It is hilarious, it is beautiful, it is funny, it is sweet, it is just so many wonderful, wonderful things. I love it, it's brilliant, it's my favourite Jane Austen novel, it's one of my favourite books, it's just the best. So, if you actually don't know what Pride and Prejudice is about, it is about 5 sisters, or more specifically, the 2 eldest sisters of those 5, Jane and Lizzie Bennet. The Bennet sisters, all in all, range from the ages of 15, Lydia Bennet, the youngest, is 15, to 22, or thereabouts, which is how old Jane Bennet is. These 5 sisters live with their father and mother in the house that their father owns, but much like in Sense and Sensibility, the estate is entailed away from the girls, so after their father dies, the Bennet sisters will not have anything, the house will go to their cousin Mr. Collins, and they will basically be penniless, and considering none of them have been educated well enough to become a governess, and they don't have any brothers or really that many other male relations, basically they're only an option in life for women of that class in the late 18th, early 19th century is for them to get married. Basically, one of the sisters has to marry well, otherwise all of them are kinda screwed. That is the basic setup of the book, and at the start of the book, a new young single gentleman moves in to the neighbourhood. This is Mr. Bingley, who is good looking and nice and charming and seems very pleasant, and at a ball, Jane Bennet dances with him, she really likes him, both of them get on very well, they're both quite sweet and innocent and nice and well-meaning, and all except for a very happy couple. However, Mr. Bingley also has some friends that come with him. 2 of them are his sisters, Miss Bingley and Mrs. Hurst. Mrs. Hurst's husband, Mr. Hurst, is also there, and along with them also comes Mr. Darcy of such great literary fame. Mr. Darcy is Mr. Bingley's best friend from a very, very long time ago. He is quite proud, quite shy, a bit socially awkward, and a little bit of a snob, in a way that many people were then, especially of his class. He's from a very, very, very rich family, has a lot of money, has a very big estate. Lizzie Bennet, who is really the heroine of the story, not Jane, meets Mr. Darcy quite early on, doesn't really like him, especially when he basically slights her and refuses to dance with her, and they kind of dislike each other vehemently, or so it seems, until he slightly falls in love with her, but she still vehemently dislikes him, etc, etc. I'm sure you know the basics of the plot. You have at least heard of Mr. Darcy and Lizzie Bennet. It's wonderful, it's brilliant, I love it so much. Anyway, it's hard for me to explain quite how much I love Pride and Prejudice and why. I'm trying to think, what is it I love about it? Because I love it so much, but not entirely, it's really hard to pin it down to one thing. I love the relationship between Jane and Lizzie as sisters. I think it's done really well. I find Mr. and Mrs. Bennet very funny, if also slightly concerning, because I actually feel really quite sorry for her, and he's not always that nice to her, and it's not her fault that she's a bit silly. And to be honest, if she's obsessed with marrying her daughters off, with kind of good reason, because if they don't get married, they'll kind of really struggle for money. Anyway, I love Caroline Bingley. I find her so hilarious in her nastiness. I think she's wonderful. What a great character. I love Mr. Darcy because he is flawed and he is a bit messed up and he is a bit awkward and he makes mistakes, but he's also well-meaning and wonderful, and I like him. I like Mr. Bingley because he is sweet and funny and wonderful. I like Lady Catherine de Bourgh because what a character. She is hilarious. I love the whole writing style throughout. I love the mix of wit and serious tones. I love the drama towards the end of the book. I love the shape of it. As a love story, it is just so perfect, and you can see that shape of love story go into so many other novels and so many films later on, like North and South, which is another one of my favourite novels of all time. The basic plot structure of the love story is basically Pride and Prejudice. I love the writing, I think it's so polished and so well done. It is, for me, the most perfectly formed of Jane Austen's novels in terms of the pacing and the characterisation and the way everything works. I love the social commentary, the way it comments on the difficulties facing women at the time and the difficulty of having to marry. And I love that although love is presented in the ideal of marriage, and although that is what Lizzie and Jane both aspire to, we also get to hear from Charlotte Lucas, who marries Mr. Collins, a silly man who she doesn't really like because she has to, because that is the only option for her in life, and to make anything of herself in life she has to be a wife, and so she marries the only man she can. And I love that although Lizzie at first is against that, we get a much more complicated image of it later, and Jane Austen points out that this is something a lot of women had to do at the times who didn't have their own independent means. Marriage was in many ways the only way for women to get any sort of independence in life. I love that Pride and Prejudice is both so timeless and so seeped in the historicalness of the time. I love that it is so late 18th, early 19th century, that it is so Regency but also so timeless. I love that people love it today to the extent that people came round the Jane Austen Centre with Colin Firth's face on a stick with a cravat. I love that both the central characters, Mr. Darcy and Lizzie in Pride and Prejudice, are so flawed and that it takes them to so long to kind of understand each other more. I love that it is a book in many ways about understanding and about trying to understand other people more, because so many of the things that kind of go wrong in the book are due to people not understanding. And I love that the book explores the difficulty of people understanding each other in a society where you cannot say what you mean, where Jane cannot turn around and say to Mr. Bingley that she likes him because that is not the done thing, because that is what the society is like. I love that it explores the intricacies of social class in the Regency period, and the fact that you can be a gentleman and a lady, but there are so many different classes of gentleman and lady. I love that it explores just how complicated the class system of the day was in a really interesting, really well done way. I love Lizzie's wit, and I love the way Mr. Darcy and her talk, because it's basically Regency flirting, and it's brilliant. It is written so well, and I love that it's just, I'm getting too excited, I have to stop talking. Okay, moving on from so many reasons why I love Pride and Prejudice to film adaptations just before I go. How do I choose? I love both of these. Most people, it seems, love one or the other, but I love both. I'm very fond of both. I'm not completely fond of both, in that both of them I think have their flaws, and I don't think they're as good as some other Jane Austen adaptations, but I love them both. My ideal, perfect Pride and Prejudice adaptation would be the script of the 1995 version with the look and the actors of the 2005 version, because I like Matthew McFadden more than Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy. I think Colin Firth gets like the pride of Mr. Darcy, but Matthew McFadden gets like the social awkwardness as well, which I think is actually quite important to his character. I also think the 2005 is just beautiful and the music is incredible and it looks so lovely, but it's too short and it doesn't get all the book in, and because it's so short sometimes you kind of miss the significance of certain things, especially like, I mean I saw it when I was quite young, but I do remember not really understanding why Lydia and Wickham running off together was a big deal at all, whereas I think you get that much more in this. So yes, the script of this and the look and the actors of this would be perfection. So all in all, I think that's been enough Pride and Prejudice chat for one day. I've fully excited myself and talked far too fast, and it's time to calm down now and leave it there. I hope you have enjoyed this week of rambly Jane Austen thoughts. I hope you like Jane Austen. Let me know if you do. Let me know what you think of Pride and Prejudice. Let me know what your favourite Jane Austen novel is. And if you have read all of them and have like a ranking, please let me know your ranking, what your favourite one is, what your least favourite one is, what the ones in the middle are. Also let me know in general what you thought of like the format of this week, because like I said back on Sunday, I'm definitely going to try and do this again with Dickens, possibly with the Brontes, at some point maybe with Gaskell. I see people doing like author spotlights, and obviously I've done my like let's talk about videos for Dickens and Jane Austen, but I feel like I have enough to say about individual novels within like the authors I love that I don't just want to do one video. I want to do like a series, and I'm enjoying having all these at once. So please let me know what you thought of this format, and I will try and do more in the future. I hope you have enjoyed Jane Austen week alongside all the Vlogmas that you're probably watching, and I will see you very soon. I'll actually be back tomorrow with another video, just a normal video, not a Jane Austen video. I don't even know what it is, I can't remember, my brain is just a bit fried. I've been talking about Jane Austen for a really long time now. Anyway, goodbye, see you soon.